Welcome back for another episode of 10,000 Roads to Financial Independence. Today, I have Bill Ham, who is a phenomenal entrepreneur who has owned a gazillion multifamily properties. I don't even know. And he's also helping others by coaching other people to learn how to kind of get started in multifamily and excel in this area. He's the owner principal of Broadwell Property Group. And also he's got his hands in multiple other business as well. So welcome to our show today, Bill.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to start from the beginning, like our episode starts from. So we'll talk about early childhood, who is your influence in terms of make the person who you are today in terms of entrepreneur mindset, and also investor mindset. Like
That's
the moment that you realize that.
Interestingly, and it's kind of a split answer because I would have to say my big influence would have been my father, really just by setting the example of a person to follow, So I want to kind of give credit where it's due. And I was a bad kid and kind of grew up ultimately to get away from being a bad kid and all that stuff, really because of the example that he set, and because I wanted to be like him. And so I would say that was the influence for me to sort of straighten up and fly right and stop messing around. But oddly enough, he's a physician, and I come from a long line of physicians that know nothing about business or being an entrepreneur at all.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where that came from. I really truly believed that I was born with it because I've been doing side business and stuff like that ever since I was a kid. My very first business venture was when I was in the fourth grade. I was 10 years old, and I realized that I had the longest commute on the bus. So I had about an hour commute on the bus. This was in Savannah, Georgia. So I started to get on the bus, and in the morning on the way to school, mostly on the way home, I would rent out my toys. I would bring toys on the bus, keep them in my backpack, and then rent out all the G.I. Joe figures and He-Man figure stuff to all the little boys in the bus for their lunch change. And then on the way home, I was one of the last kids off the bus.
Right.
So I would rent my toys to all the little kids on the bus and then get them all back because they were getting off the bus because I was one of the last kids off the bus. And then I realized that I had boy toys and I was missing all the little girls. So then I had to go out and figure, well, hey, you know what? What I realized was girls didn't rent stuff. They bought things. So I went and got things that the girls wanted to buy, stickers and toys and garbage. So I was selling to the little girls and renting everything out to the little boys. And that was one of my very first entrepreneurial businesses at the age of 10 years old. So I don't know exactly who got me going in that mindset as far as, other than my father being a good person, but that really had nothing to do with business. So I think it just came to me.
Yeah. So when did that moment dawn on you that you could rent for money?
That's a good question. I don't know. I came from poor beginnings and was looking for a way to make money to play video games with at the arcade and buy candy in the afternoons. And so I just saw a need and filled it. And creativity has always been sort of the hallmark of my business and sort of how I even got into multifamily, and even got going in real estate. Was all through creative financing early on in my career. I didn't really go in and qualify for a lot of mortgages and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Because I was new. I had no money. I had no experience. So banks weren't doing business with me back then. So it's just always been there.
That's awesome. So tell us, fast forward a little bit. Did you ever had a W-2 job? I read from your bio somewhere you did.
I have.
So you went to college and followed the regular path.
I did.
And then got a day job.
Correct.
And then how is that first moment, or did you always had a side business, or it was like the first moment where you feel, hey, maybe there's something
I have not always had a side business. No. And I went to college, came out as I was finishing college. I started flying airplanes and became a flight instructor. And so I kind of came out of school trained as a pilot, and that was my day job, was flying airplanes. And I had working for a neurosurgeon, sort of working in his medical supply company and flying airplanes. And the aha moment, I guess, was me seeing other friends of mine going out, flipping houses, doing real estate, doing small multifamily deals. And in a transaction or two, these people were making as much money as I was making all year working, you know?
Right.
And so that was probably my biggest aha moment, was like, wait a second, these are friends of mine. They're idiots. You know, we were all out partying last night. Wait a minute. I got up and went to work. They went out and flipped the house. Wait a second here, something's wrong, you know? And I think
Right.
that was kind of monkey see, monkey do, as they say. I think that
Yeah.
was my aha moment. I thought my friends are pretty dumb, and they're making a lot more money than I am. So,
Hopefully
and
none of your
yeah, I went
friends
into
are
real
listening to this.
yeah. Okay, guys, sorry. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that was just watching other people do it, and I just got the bug and thought, why not?
Yeah. So how did you start about your single family flipping business? I understand that become really successful later on. Like, how did you start your first flip?
Yeah, very first flip. Well, first deal wasn't really meant to be a flip. It was a duplex, and I'll tell the whole story. I had saved up $10,000, and the duplex was cash flowing $300, and that's what I walked away from aviation on. So I had 10 grand and $300 a month in a duplex, and I went full time into real estate. So
Wow.
don't do that if you're listening at home.
Why
I was single. I had no children. I was young. I was in my late 20s. You know, so I had a lot of upside, we'll call it. And so yeah, I did the first deal was duplex. A friend of mine, owner financed it to me, as a matter of fact. And so what I did was I went in and ran it for a few months, and then flipped it over into long-term financing with a lender. So I got 100% seller financing, and then long-term financing. Yep. And then flipped houses from then. And then after about 3 years of that, I slowly started doing multifamily. First one was like a 9 unit, so not very big, and then a 20 unit, and then a 27 unit, and then 44, and then bigger and bigger. But I did not start off anything particularly interesting. I didn't have money. I did not have experience. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I got out, I read some books, I took some classes, and I figured it out.
Yeah. So how long did it took you to get your first deal? Like that first, duplex?
Very first deal, about a year. Yep. And I have been in the education space, and I've been teaching multifamily and real estate for a long time. And I find that I'd say majority of the students, 90 some odd percent, will close within about a year, 12 months, after sort of getting the bug and getting serious about education, you know. And I got to draw the line when you get serious about education. You're not just messing around, but once you're really truly serious, most people get going within a year, 9 months to a year. They'll get that first.
Gotcha. Yeah, because at first you kind of have to figure out. A lot of our listeners sometimes are confused with, okay, there's so many vehicles in real estate alone. So they understood, hey, I want to diversify from stock market. I want to get into real estate. And then it takes them probably 6 to 9 months or maybe a year to kind of figure out the niche in the real estate they want to go after. So when you first started, was it because you're friends, so you just jumped into kind of single family, like you just decided, or after you did some research?
But both. So I saw them doing it and thought, okay, you know, if they can do it, I can do it too. That was sort of my thought process. But no, from that moment, it was a year later that I actually did that duplex. So no, I spent a year not only looking for a good deal, but studying, reading books. I would join classes. So no, I spent that first year in very diligent study, as well as actively looking for deals. And it took me about a year to get my first deal, to get comfortable enough, educated enough, and to actually identify the asset. Yeah.
Gotcha. And knowing what you know now, going back to that self yourself, when you're doing that first deal, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? It was a pretty tough neighborhood. Well, I tell you what I would do differently. The very first mistake I made is probably the lesson here. What I did was I analyzed the deal for cash flow, but I did not place the deal into the context of the market. And what I mean by that is the deal cash flow. So I analyzed it, and it made sense, and the cash flow was there, and that's great. And then I actually went to my very first real estate investment club, RIA group, if you've heard of that real estate club.
Right.
And, and so they kind of went around the room and they said, oh, any new students? And I said, yeah, I'm new, and they said, okay, tell us, have you done a deal? And I said, yeah, I did my first deal, a round of applause, everybody's happy, all this kind of stuff. And then the person said, so, what did you pay for it? And I said, oh, well, I paid $43,000 for the duplex, something or other. Well, there's a guy in the back of the room just busted out laughing. And, oh no. And I was like, what? And I said, what are you laughing at? The guy says, you're an idiot. And
There's
okay. I said, let's go to lunch. You tell me why I'm an idiot and I'll pay for lunch. And so I literally took the guy to lunch. Turns out everyone on the street was paying about $20,000 for duplexes back then.
Oh, wow.
And I paid $43,000.
Yeah.
So yes, the cash flow numbers worked. My analysis in the income approach was accurate. Mm-hmm. What I didn't do was to take that deal and then back up and place it into the context. It was a tough neighborhood, pretty low income, pretty high crime. And I just knew nothing about comparable sales. And so I analyzed the deal in a very narrow format. So that's probably what I would go back and say now is learn how to analyze deals a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not just about cash flow at all.
And I think there's so many, want to kind of tease out that one thing that you just said. It's very important. A lot of people said, hey, the market's too high. I can't find a deal. And then for that person in the back room busting laughing at you, of course, you didn't do the comps calculation, but in terms of what the criteria you had selected actually worked. In fact, it worked so much that you're confident enough that you quit your job, even though you're overpaying, like you're paying double on these, right? This is not to kind of tell people to say, oh, go out there and pay double for the property. You have to analyze it, but everybody has a different criteria on it. It just worked for you.
The catch really, and I think what your listeners should take away from this is actually the value of the exit strategy. See, that was the problem. And a lot of people kind of make the comment, oh, I analyze for cash flow. And if I get appreciation, that's extra. That's great, but I don't care. You definitely care. That is a horrible, horrible point of view to only analyze for cash flow. Because if you do not have appreciation, you may have trouble exiting the deal.
Absolutely.
If your loan comes due or the market goes weird or you got to sell and this property didn't appreciate, your exit strategy can be very constrained. And that's how you wind up becoming a motivated seller. And we don't ever want to be motivated sellers. We want to find motivated sellers. We just want to be motivated sellers.
Exactly.
So I hate to hear that when somebody says, oh, I only analyze for cash flow. Take it from me and learn from my mistake. You must do both. Analyze the cash flow and the location and appreciation. All of it together is how we look at real estate.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Great lesson. And that actually took me, that lesson you just talked about, Bill, took me like a couple of years. Once I get into syndication, that's when I realized that there's a valuation to consider as well. Absolutely.
So if you want to refinance, try and refinance with the appraisal.
You kind of stuck. With your equity. Yeah, exactly. So how did you actually get seller to finance for you? I understand that's kind of one of your niche because you were really good at getting that. Yeah.
Correct. So good. I actually wrote a book on the subject. By the time we discussed that. Yeah. But so my first 402 units were through some form of creative financing, meaning I did not go into a bank, put down 20 or 30%, qualify for a mortgage and buy the property. That came later on in my career. Or it came through refinancing. But the initial purchase for the first 402 units was some type of creative financing, seller financing, lease options, credit cards, lines of credit, debt partners. I mean, you name it, I was out there making it up. So the very first deal was seller financing. I actually knew the seller. He's a friend of mine. And so I convinced him to give me seller financing, which allowed me to refinance at the bank. And then not because the appraisal went up, I wound up not having to put any money into the refinance. Now, you got to be careful here. If you're new to the business, there's what we call seasoning period. See, back then, this was back in 2005, banks and lenders were a lot more lenient. I almost want to say more ignorant. Well, they went through 2008 and they got smart after that. So a lot of terms have changed since 2008. But these days, if you want to buy something and refinance it and either pull money out or refinance it and not, just pay off the seller, you're probably looking at owning that thing for 12 to 18 months before you can do that without having just by refinancing on the appraisal. And so we call the BRRRR model, I believe it is.
Yeah, the BRRRR.
Buy, renovate, refi, and roll, or something to the effect. And so one thing they tend not to teach enough in that model is the seasoning period. If you buy something and you want to refinance it, that's fine, but you're probably not going to own it for about a year.
Yeah.
I was lucky I was able to do it in about 120 days, but that's just not reasonable anymore.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then you have to invest in a market that has a significant amount of appreciation or sort of value add and et cetera.
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us, how do you get from, so what was that book about? What was that book name, Bill? Do you want to share with us?
Absolutely, yeah. Today is the 8th of February, and I'm literally launching the book tomorrow on the 9th. And it's
Nice.
called Creative Cash. It's a book on basically how I built my my first 402 unit portfolio using creative financing. So it's
Gotcha.
all techniques on seller financing, lease options, other ways to fund real estate besides going to a bank, putting down money, getting a
Mm,
deal, like we do when we syndicate. And so this book is not on syndication. It's
hmm
which we all do that, and I do that as well. This is
hmm
just on creative financing, and it's on
Awesome.
Amazon, Audible, and Kindle, so you can
Uh,
get it there. Yep.
yeah, so we'll put a link down in the show
Yeah,
notes below
Creative
to
Cash.
share with folks. Yeah,
Yeah,
Creative
Creative Cash.
Cash.
Yeah, there you go.
What was the craziest or the most creative kind of deal structure you have put together in order to
Most
get?
creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. It was a 44 unit apartment complex where I got 100% seller financing for 90 days,
Wow.
but I had to qualify for the refinance. I didn't have to have it fully refinanced, but I had to qualify for a bank loan within that 90 days or I went into foreclosure. So
Wow.
that was my craziest deal. Yeah, basically it was a seller. This gentleman, older fella, had passed away and left this property to his wife, but unfortunately, he also left her a bunch of lawsuits.
Oh,
And so the attorney came to me and said, "Look, we got to sell this property right now because they're about to get sued." And I said, "Well, the property was like at 50% occupancy." I said,
right,
"There's no way I can go get a loan. There's just
right.
no way." And so I said, "Here's what you're going to do: seller finance the deal to me for 90 days and with no payments." And
Right.
so what I did was I took this 44 unit deal. And so for 90 days, I was able to collect whatever rent that first month. I collected the rent. I used the rent money to fix the deal up. So I
Yeah.
renovated 3 or 4 more units, leased those up. We go into month 2. I collect all that rent, use that money, fix up more units. And so by the end of the day, the end of the 90 days, I basically stabilized the apartment complex
Wow.
with none of my own money. The property the revenue of the property had fixed itself up.
Right.
And come day 90, I think was going to fall on like a Saturday or Sunday, something like that. And
Yeah.
basically what we did was a deed in lieu.
Uh-huh.
So this attorney went ahead and escrowed the deeds. So if I didn't have the performance, the refinance, he'd just pull that deed out, and it wasn't going to be a full foreclosure. We would just title it back to the seller.
Gotcha.
And so the lender called me up on the attorney called me up on day, I don't know, it was like the Thursday, because day 90 was going to be like Saturday. And he said, "Well, it's great. You didn't qualify for your refinance. Just come on in Monday. We'll undo it." And I said, "Hey, I'll honor the agreement. That's what I said we'd do, and I couldn't get the refi." Friday, about 2 in the afternoon, the bank calls up and says, "Okay, you qualified for your mortgage." So
Nice.
within like 24 hours of losing this deal in foreclosure,
Yeah.
it didn't cost me any money. I didn't put in any money,
Right.
but nonetheless, it was a lot of work and effort. And so I was
Yeah.
within some hours of losing that, qualified for the refinance, and was able to cash out the seller, and then sort of backdoored into long-term finance
Nice.
that deal.
So there must be a lot of analyzation that needs to go into this deal to know that you can actually execute this with pretty good confidence.
Interestingly, there is no more deal analysis than the deal analysis that we do for any deal.
Uh-huh.
So the way creative financing works, and it's a great question and a really good point here, is
Yeah.
it's not the only way. It's
Yeah.
a way. So what I want everyone listening to know is that you need to go out and just find deals like you normally find deals. And by the way, my book and my material works on houses, storage, any kind of real estate. So don't just think multifamily. But what you got to do is you got to go out and analyze the deal. If the deal works and it's clean and you go to the bank and put money down and buy it, you should.
Yeah.
If for some reason the property won't qualify for a mortgage, something's wrong, the debt service ratio is low, or the repairs are too high, or whatever the case, then you say, okay, the property won't qualify for a mortgage. Okay, seller, realtor, whoever you're talking to, here's my offer. And so what you do is you create a problem-solving offer based on that unique situation. So that's what we're doing. You just analyze the deals like you normally would.
Right.
Does it cash flow? The numbers don't work. Okay, why?
Yeah.
We answer the question why it doesn't work,
Hmm.
and then we come up with an offer that solves it.
Hmm.
Most of the time, it doesn't work because it's just overpriced.
Right.
Seller just wants too much money, and
Right.
creative financing doesn't fix that. If
Right.
seller's just asking too much money, you probably should just
Right.
deal. Yep.
And I love to kind of tie it into your first deal too, because
Sure.
it's like it's in a way that's kind of creative. And then I'm sure like it teach you the lesson on like, okay, the deal didn't really work. Like everyone in the room wouldn't buy it, but I bought it, it still worked for me. So a lot has to do with that term. Like what's the term that you have like set it up? So that
Right.
allows you to cash flow. So perhaps if the deal wasn't structured, there's many gazillion ways to structure a deal. So I would definitely go and buy Bill's book. In fact, I'm going to do this after this interview on Amazon and then read into it because, the creativeness, you touched upon your creativeness. That's kind of really the core of entrepreneurship. When you're structuring a deal, like you can see certain things other people don't see, and that wouldn't work for it. So a million people can pass that deal on, then you can still pick it up and make it work.
Exactly. You really hit the core of the book right there. It's seeing what other people don't see. It's learning these creative techniques to where you can identify a problem and then solve that problem where other people may have only seen a problem.
Right.
And they may pass on that deal and say, no, those numbers don't work. And they throw the deal in the trash. I'm saying, hold on, pull the deal back out of the trash. Let's apply just a few more techniques. If these techniques don't work, okay, then put the deal back in the trash. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is creative financing is a way to increase probability. Mm-hmm. That's all. Right. What I find is that you will, in multifamily anyway, you close about 1 in every 80 deals that you analyze. Right. Well, with these techniques, maybe we'll close 4 in 80 or 5 in 80. It's just an increase in probability. What I don't want anybody to think is that, oh, great, I no longer need a lender and I'll just go do all seller financing or I'll only do master lease option deals. No, that's a mistake. If you start approaching sellers and realtors asking for creative financing, it's going to seem like you don't have any money and you can't close. Right. And that may be a negative conversation for you. So don't go out reaching out and say, hey, Bill told me to ask about seller financing. No, Bill did not tell you that. Don't do that. Right. No, analyze the deal. If it doesn't work, then here are some techniques to maybe make it work. And you'll find that some do. Yeah. We did have an example of that too, which is, again, once you can't get financing, this is where you offer as a solution. This is awesome. Thank you so much, Bill, for that wisdom. So moving forward, so you were having a mildly successful, just kidding, a very successful single family business of the 402 units. Why did you decide to switch to multifamily? Actually, I took a class is the answer. It was a speaker. I was at a Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, You Walk on Fire, one of those weekend motivational things, whatever that was. And I was looking at the menu of speakers and there was a person off on one of these side rooms and it was a lecture on multifamily. And so I grabbed my friends and said, hey, I want to go listen to this person. And of course we were all flipping houses and my 2 friends were like, oh, that's crazy. This guy's not from Atlanta. This is stupid. You think he's from New England or wherever he was. He's going to come down here and tell you how to, do multifamily. This is a waste of naysayers. And I said, no, y'all are wrong. So I drug him in there kicking and screaming. And I was hooked. I mean, listening to this person talk about multifamily, economy of scale, all the different things that make up multifamily, what it is. It was for me. I was hooked. And again, it took me about a year after starting my studying into multifamily before I actually transitioned from single family to multifamily. Gotcha. And then would you say, is there anything that you carried from your single family investment into multifamily? Because a lot of people ask about that. Yeah, that deal context, the very mistake I made in the first deal, that one, not paying attention to whether that market is going to appreciate or not. I absolutely take into multifamily the value of exit strategies. Absolutely. You take all that in there. And I always like to say, I hate the old adage, you make money when you buy. I think that's horrible advice. It's not true. You create value when you buy. You make money when you exit profitably and the check clears the account. Then you made money. And I would say, ask anybody that went into foreclosure. if they made money when they bought. They did
Yeah.
not. They did
Yeah.
not. Exit strategy is everything in real estate. Everybody thinks real estate's about buying real estate. It's not. It's about selling it profitably. That's the business.
Right.
So that's what I took out of my single family business to the multifamily. Was it's not only about cash flow, it's about appreciation as well.
Yeah. So we do have a lot of listener, I think, of being a flipper. So you can kind of foresee like that side of the business, and then you probably got hit pretty hard with tax and tax back then.
Yeah.
And with multifamily, there's definitely almost a no-brainer to kind of get into that. But I noticed a lot of people who do fix and flip, there seems to be a hard time in mindset shift towards buying a hold or multifamily. Even if they're not doing multifamily and just buying a hold, there's a lot of tax benefit. Being there before, why would you think that mentality, like how would someone kind of shift that mindset, be a little bit more open up to what kind of concept and et cetera to kind of help them bridge the gap?
Well, I would say if you're flipping houses and you're making money and you're happy, why stop?
Right.
Don't. People always want to be convinced that they should come over here and do multifamily, or they should do this, or they should. Look, if you're making money, it's not that hard for you. You enjoy it. Keep doing it. I'm not convincing you to stop doing anything. Now, if for whatever reason you want to make more money or you want more of an actual business, then multifamily brings economy of scale. And that's where it's a lot easier. Just one short example would be property management. It would take me I could manage 100 apartments on one location in the same amount of time I could manage 10 houses around a city that I got to drive around and deal with, So when you want to accelerate your business model and you want to go and grow larger, you're going to want to get into commercial, but as you pointed out before we got the call, that's typically syndication. See, now we're talking about networking. We're talking about bringing on partners. So maybe that's not for you. If you want to accelerate and you want to go bigger, quicker, you want to go on into multifamily and commercial real estate. If you want no partners, no investors, and you want to do everything yourself, single family and small deals are perfect.
Right.
You're just going to grow slowly. So it really depends on the person. It depends on you, the listener, what it is you want to do with your business.
Right.
If you don't like partners and investors, then just flip houses and stay small and save your money up. And eventually you'll get somewhere and you'll have a lot of cash. If you want to accelerate quickly and go on into a business, you're going to need some partners and some syndication, which is then multifamily. You're not syndicating houses and duplexes.
Right. Or saving up and then just owning the property yourself, maybe with another partner. It's a lot less like investor relations to deal with. And then it's a bigger share that you kind of have by owning a property there that way, but slower, as you mentioned before. Yeah. So you moved. Yeah, definitely. So you moved into.
It depends on what.
Yeah. So you moved to multifamily investing from single family. So how did that transition happen? Because it's almost like a career switch. Now, taking in a larger context for folks who are thinking about doing a career switch, whether they're an existing business owner and they found what they're doing for is still trading hours for money, and then you switch to multifamily. So tell us a little bit about that transition, and for someone to kind of generalize it, thinking about switching career, what are some steps? Yeah.
Slowly. That's how I transitioned. Slowly. I was doing houses. By the time I really got into multifamily, I probably had 30 or 40 houses in a portfolio, smaller, low income rental houses, not big, nice mansions, but, rental houses. And so I was already kind of operating a multifamily portfolio. It was just multi-houses, not like apartments, And then I just did a small one, a 9-unit. So it really was a pretty easy transition because 9 apartments and 10 houses, it's not much difference, really.
Yeah, you probably spend more time on the 10 houses than the 9.
Absolutely, you do. Yeah. And I just did small deals that were fit for me, my skill set, and for my business. And what I always tell all my students is, look, you can only go as big as your net worth.
Right.
So first of all, when you want to go get a loan from a bank, if we're not talking creative financing, we're just talking general syndication and buying a deal, you have to qualify for the mortgage. Well, you have to have net worth equal to or greater than the loan amount.
Right.
So really what you can do is when you want to transition from whatever asset class you're in, what you want to do is take your own net worth and then apply that to a number of units in the market. So let's just say, I'm worth $1 million, fine. I'm in Atlanta. How many doors could I buy for $1 million in Atlanta? And that's what you need, the listener need to do. You need to figure out what is your net worth, because that's your borrowing ability.
Right.
Take that dollar amount and figure out how many doors it turns into in your market. And that's obviously going to be different from market to market. But that's a good way to kind of figure out where your starting is. And if you want to go bigger than that number, or you have no net worth, then networking is as important to you as finding deals, because you find a great deal. If you don't have any money or any net worth or any partners, it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
So, yeah, you want to be doing both.
It's awesome. And what would you say, kind of like in multifamily, there's multiple roles in syndication specifically. There's multiple roles, when you bring to a deal, like what you bring to a deal to a team. A multifamily?
Yeah, probably. Well, besides creativity and problem solving, I would say on the superpower side, that's going to be problem solving for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I do, is solve problems. Yeah. And then as far as our team here at Broadwell Property Group, pretty much operations and deal sourcing. That's what I do mostly, is find them and run them. Yep. I let most other people do the money raising and things of that nature, but day-to-day operations, deal sourcing and operations is what I do mostly.
Makes sense, because it goes back to your being pilot, right? That very
right.
structured, organized. That's a very great personality for that. Now, when you first did your first multifamily deal, and maybe first syndication deal, you probably didn't know what your superpower is. Or do you already kind of know that and it's targeted in like finding a team? So what's the process for you to kind of figure out who you are and what's your strength?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always tell everybody, play to their strengths and not their passion. So don't go do what you're passionate about. Do what you're competent over, So I would say figure out what you're good at. Are you a numbers person? Are you sort of the deal sourcing person? Are you a money raising person? Maybe you have a lot of money contacts. So figure out which one of these areas you fit in best, and then do that. So I always tell my students that mostly real estate's broken down into two types of business. One is financial, raising money in the financial side. The other side is the physical side. That's the finding the deals and the management. So which side do you see yourself fitting on? More of the physical side or more of the economic side? Whichever side you see yourself, aligning with better, you probably want to focus on that and then outsource the other side. So if right now you've got a lot of high net worth contacts, a lot of millionaires that you're friends with, maybe you've got a great network, I would say focus on that and partner with someone who's really good at sourcing deals. Maybe you don't have a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of credibility or network, then you want to be the deal finding person, because that's relatively inexpensive. So I say sit down and look at your base values. What are you bringing? And then kind of pick one side or the other based on that. It was the deal side. I was more on the physical side, not the economic side.
Gotcha. So for someone to land their first deal, can you share with us the amount of effort that they have to go through and some of the major tasks that you think that someone needs to kind of do? I know we don't have time to cover all that, of course.
You said you're planned on your first deal? I didn't quite understand your question.
Oh, when you're finding your first deal, for a listener looking to find their first deal, what would you say the most important couple of things that they need to focus on?
Yes, probably depending on how you're trying to buy stuff. For me, like in multifamily, I would say it's probably realtor relationship. But I think a more general comment would be consistent deal flow. I think that's what new people to business and to real estate need to understand, is that it's about the consistency of deal flow. So you want to be analyzing 3 to 5 deals every week, whether that's houses or 10 units or 100 units or whatever it is you're trying to buy, hotel, it doesn't matter. You need to be analyzing 3 to 5 deals every single week. If you're not seeing 3 to 5 assets like you're looking to buy, then you need to increase your territory. You need to look more. So that's a kind of another way that I help people choose markets. Choose enough market that gets 3 to 5 deals a week, but not more market than you need, or you won't build a relationship.
Right.
So that's what I would say. It's all about deal flow. You've got to be getting that deals coming in, not necessarily good deals, just anything. Just get the deal flow coming in. It's a numbers game. It's like sales. You'll find one, but it takes volume.
Right. And then it takes volume for you to get familiar, feel confident
Correct.
to start
Correct.
pulling the
Correct.
triggers.
Practice. It's all practice.
Yeah, exactly. So how does people contact you more, Bill,
Sure.
in terms of if folks are like, wow, this is amazing, like we want to get coached by you, right? So
I hear
like how
you.
do they
Sure.
like contact
Sure.
you on that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we have the book, Creative Cash. So I definitely recommend the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. I also have a website, creativeapartmentdeals.com, and I have a masterclass there for download as well as the book. So that's the next level of creative information is creativeapartmentdeals.com. And then my email is bill@gobroadwell.com. If you want to reach out to me personally. And if you're looking to invest with my team and I, that's at gobroadwell.com. And we have a section there for investors. You can put your
Passive
information.
investing.
Yeah, we'll be in touch shortly. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, please reach out.
And then what do you focus on now, Bill, like in terms of your team investment profile, and then what kind of criteria do you kind of focus on?
Sure. Yeah, right now we're with the way the market is and the market cycles and what I'm sort of predicting upcoming, we're looking at newer buildings, newer multifamily. So B space multifamily assets, in good areas. That's what we're focusing on. Typically 100 plus units. I really don't like to go much smaller than 100 units if I can help it. In the Southeast, so in the Southeastern markets.
Yeah,
I'm in
a great
Atlanta.
market. Yeah, that's
What
awesome.
we're looking for.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's awesome. I will definitely want to check out. And how do you become your investor? What's the process for someone to become your investor?
Go broadwell.com. Just go to our website, and we have that investing section there. It says invest with us. Just click that button. We got a series of questions, and we'll be in touch with you directly. Just fill that out.
Awesome. And so, Bill, I understand. Last parting question we have. We always ask our speaker. Kind of goes full circle. You have children now,
I
right?
do not.
Oh, you don't have children.
I do not have children. No.
So, do you have nieces?
Sure. Yeah.
So, I don't know if you have any attempt to kind of enlighten them in their entrepreneurship creativeness. But can you think about some examples or stuff that you may want to do if you have children? What would you kind of do for them?
Yeah, I would probably teach them about failure early on, and that failure is not what I think, as Western society believe that it is. Failure is a terribly misunderstood concept in our world, and failure is good. Failure is learning. Failure is experience. Failure is great. A mistake is only a failure when you repeat it. The first time around, it's just tuition. Right. So I think people are not willing enough to get out and learn through a process of failure. And that ultimately leads to failure because people don't get started. They don't go out and try. They don't get going. They're nervous. They're afraid. Everything's got to be perfect before they do their perfect first deal. Look, just get out there and do it. You're going to make some mistakes. Don't worry about it. You'll fix it. You'll figure it out. That's probably the lessons that I would really leave my children is be willing to fail until you get it right. It's not a big deal. Yeah. Failure is not what people think it is.
No. Yeah. That's awesome. That's great lesson. I'm going to go teach my kids with that. It's always a selfish question that I have.
There you go.
At the end of the show. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bill, today for your time. And then again, Bill, can you highlight to us again, where do we find you? We're going to put it in the show notes. But Bill, that new book that comes out called Creative Cash.
Creative Cash.
And hitting the store by the time our show airs. It's probably already in the store. Yeah. So go ahead and go buy them if you want to think about different ways to get the deal work. I'm going to buy one copy for sure.
Oh, thank you. Amazon.com. You get there. Leave me a review. I need reviews. Please leave me a review. And creativeapartmentdeals.com. Yeah, see you there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Bill, for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right. Thank you. That's another episode of 10,000 Roads to Financial Independence. So hopefully today you picked up so many gold nuggets from Bill Ham in terms of multifamily and real estate investing. Thank you. See you next time.